USFL is back. See you in 2022. It's football. It is real football. It's pro football at the highest level. It's just being played in the spring. When I go back to our days of the USFL, that's what it was. We had Reggie White, we had Jim Kelly, we had Steve Young, we had Herschel Walker, we had name after name. We had 15 guys that played in the USFL that played in the NFL Pro Bowl the following year. And the talent level is out there. It is an alternative for some players rather than going to the NFL, and it's an opportunity for other players.
There we go. What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. You just heard from Doug Flutie talking about the USFL. We'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah, I go away for a week, and all of a sudden there's a new spring league. But we'll get into all that stuff and more, plus some CFL news looking good for the season to start up. So that's all good there. You'll get my thoughts on that. Remember, it's the podcast. It's live. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe to spread the word about the show out there as well. So before we get started, how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast at XFL News Hub with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate that. And yeah, also remember, last time here, it's the summertime, my friends, and it's time to get Manscaped. So support the XFL Week in Review is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. You know what I'm talking about. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard it right. 4.0, I have the 3.0 before that stuff. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Exclusive offer, 20% off free worldwide shipping. That's even if you're from Canada or wherever, it doesn't matter. Just use the promo code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. That's XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. Remember, it's summertime. It's time to trim it up a little bit. It's time to get your cardio on. It's time to start looking good. Now is the time. It's June. Pools are open. Kids are at the pool. Everybody's hanging out. It's nice outside except for cicadas here in Maryland. So it's time, my friends. It's time to trim it up. So you get 20% off and free shipping using the code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code. It's very simple. XFL News Hub. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with manscaped.com. There you go. So we got Manscaped in the house. We've got a lot of news going on this week. A lot of things that, as I was away, taking a little break with the wife, kind of did a little weekend getaway, and it just wasn't going to happen. I was like, oh, let's take a little break. Nothing really going on. We've got some things to discuss. So let's get right into some of the news this week. First up, let's talk about this USFL returns. That's right, the USFL has returned. A little surprised. I was taken aback by this, but not, well, I was, but I wasn't. I'll clean that up a little bit. So the big announcement is that Fox Sports, it will serve as the official broadcast partner of the USFL. The USFL is back. The action begins in the spring of 2022. That's a year from now. They announced that the league would officially return in the spring of 2022. We all know the history of it. The league will target a minimum of 8 teams and deliver high-quality, innovative professional football to fans throughout the spring season. A quote from the Spring League CEO, Brian Woods. Fox Sports will serve as the official broadcast partner. Fox Sports also owns a minority stake in the company that owns the USFL. And that was it. More information at UFL, including the cities, teams, head coaches, game schedules, will be announced at a later date. Which then got the XFL fans all kind of bent out of shape. And understandably at first, me too. I'm going to take a swig. This is live. It kind of took me back a little bit as well. I was like, "Ooh, this is not good." Now, if you go check out the XFL Markcast, I forget what its episode. There's a Brian Woods episode. It's the one with you know who Rash, whatever his name is, on the show. But once you get past, just fast forward that garbage and get to the Brian Woods stuff, because he basically laid out this back then. Because I was like, wait, I heard about this somewhere and what he was talking about. So here's the difference between the CFL or the USFL and the XFL. And based on what he said on the show, and you can just go to Markcast and go on their YouTube channel, and you can find actually just the Brian Woods interview on there. And definitely I recommend checking it out, because basically what he was saying is that their idea is to do a kind of slow build, where, like, when the AAF came out and the XFL came out, it was like, we're going to spend all this money, boom, here it is, and let's go. Their approach and his approach is slow pace, is a slow growth, doing it in hub cities. And then so basically what's going to happen is it's basically the TSL with, in my opinion, and I don't know anything particulars, but it's going to be the TSL with a skin on it, the USFL skin on it. Because what the TSL was this spring wasn't really what the TSL was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be like, here's the standings and here's a championship game. Remember, it was supposed to just kind of be like a practice, couple weeks of practice for scouts, and it kind of turned into this pseudo league. I mean, you got some XFL guys in there and XFL coaches. So I anticipate next year it's going to be similar to the spring league with 2 hub cities, a short schedule. Maybe they'll do some merch this time, or an online store. Because remember, you can't even buy TSL merch right now. Very limited. That's what I think their approach is with the USFL. Does it make me worried for the XFL? Absolutely not. Because you're talking, Fox is a minority owner in it. It shows you how the leagues, the networks want spring football. Clearly, the Fox wanted spring football, but wasn't willing to wait around for the XFL to get their deal together. So I think what you'll see, it will do. They need to come out, because here's the thing: there was no cities, there was no teams, no head coaches, no game schedules, nothing. It was just kind of just like, hey, we're doing this, which is fine. I mean, the XFL did that with the CFL, which is like, hey, we're doing something, but we're not going to tell you what it is. And, it gets the buzz. I understand that. I'm not really too concerned as an XFL fan. XFL will still be the leader. If you heard on Mike Mitchell on the XFL show talking with Alan and I want to say Paul, but that's it. That's the wrong show. The XFL show, and Mike Mitchell was on there, talking about something that we have been kind of talking about here too, which is that I believe, and he kind of confirmed that too, is that the XFL is going to be 2 separate entities but share resources, and that could be the TV deal. And he talked about a parent company, and then the CFL and XFL be, kind of operated on their own thing. And that's what I figured it had to be done that way, because it's just too complicated, especially if you want to bring in Mexico and you want to bring in Europe. This idea that the XFL is going to be merged with the CFL, you have the people in the XFL side saying it's not going to be a merge, and then you have people on the CFL side it's going to be a full-blown merger. I don't think so. But I think what it is going to be, and we'll get into some other news in a second about the Redbird Capital, but you'll see I'm not worried about it, guys. Honestly, at first I was kind of like, well, this isn't good. Like, are you going to tell me if you have a choice between playing in a hub city with TSL, I mean, it's not like they're going to pay these guys a ton of money to play. I mean, I heard Doug Flutie say that they want to go after NFL players, and I'm like, dude, I don't know about that. If you're going to do a slow build, I don't think Fox is putting in $200 million for the USFL to get this going. They're a minority. So they're like, I would assume that it's kind of like a same production deal as the XFL had. Maybe even a little bit more money, because they didn't have, I mean, the TSL didn't have any gate. I mean, they had no fans in Houston and some fans in Indianapolis. So we'll see how it plays out. It'll be good. I mean, hey, the spring league has been great for XFL News Hub, getting a lot of traffic. Definitely now have USFL fantasy football. I would assume no one's going to do that except for us. So that gives us something to work towards. And it's just another place for players to get exposure, and I'm fine with that. And spring football is going to work. It's here to stay. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with. Again, I'm rooting for the USFL. I just don't think it's going to overtake the XFL. There's just too much. I mean, it's Brian Woods and Fox versus The Rock, Danny Garcia, Redbird Capital, and the CFL together, not merged. So I think you're going to have. I'm not really worried about it, and I don't think the XFL folks are too worried about it as well. But I think it's a great thing, and if the TSL goes away and it becomes the USFL becomes this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know what are they really going to try to compete with the XFL? I mean, the marketing for the TSL hasn't even been that great. I mean, their numbers have been good, all things considering, but it wasn't getting that push that the XFL got. So at the end of the day, at first I was like, I don't know about this, but I'm not worried. And just like I wasn't worried when the AAF came around either. Do I think the USFL is going to make it 5 years? I mean, that's kind of the question. That's the question of the week. We'll throw that out there. Do you think the USFL, who's going to last longer, the XFL or the USFL? If I'm putting my money down, I'm going with the XFL on that one. So, but I still think it's a great thing for the players and coaches. And speaking of great things for the players and coaches, it looks like this is still cutting off. The CFL Players Association tells the players that June 14th they should be good. They should know if the CFL season is a go. So the CFL has set a date for August 5th to kick off the 2021 season. However, there has been no official word. I mean, they just basically say this is what we want to do, but there's no schedule, there's no official word. Again, and I'm not knocking the CFL for this at all because it's a fluid situation. And this article, of course, comes from CFL News Hub. So I'm not knocking the league whatsoever. It's going to take time to figure all this out. But the Salman Elamani, president of the CFL Players Association, sent out the following notice to his players. And he said, quote, "We anticipate a decision on the August 5th season start from the league by June 14th, which is a week from today. Below are some critical dates you would have received previously if and when a decision is made to start the season August 5th. I think everything is a go. June 15th, 16th, and 17th, there's a seminar, hygiene, prevention, a bunch of stuff. June 25th, a bunch of education, which is fine. June 25th, it would be a 7-day home self-isolation for international domestic travelers. Again, if you've gotten the vaccine, do you need to self-isolate? But I get it. Err on the side of caution. Local Tier 1 personnel start work quarantine period. July 2nd, arrival day and quarantine starts. Medicals for all the players in quarantine or work quarantines from July 2nd to the 9th. Quarantine ends July 9th, and then training camp starts July 10th. How exciting is that? And of course, these are all tentative, and please rest assured that your CFLPA Executive Bargaining Committee, blah, 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 are working hard, blah, 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 blah. So there you have it. So it looks like there is a season. This all seems good to me. I'm excited about this. Now the CFL will be this season of the CFL won't be like on any season in its history with the looming XFL and CFL talks. The Grey Cup in December, which is also new. The 14 games scheduled. Fans are just happy to see the CFL back after the cancellation of the 2020 season and no Grey Cup for the first time since 1919. So that was a long time since they've not had a Grey Cup. But all signs are pointing good. This is what we told you. Hey, this is what we told you on XFL News Hub Week in Review. I've told you this before. A lot of people were freaking out. A lot of coverage, talk about like these politicians saying this, that, and the other thing. And really, we just decided not to cover it because who cares? I just want to talk about football. And if so-and-so says there's not going to be fans, like who cares? So, yeah. So that's all looking good for the CFL. Also, in some CFL news, the Elks came out with their name. Well, that's it. That was the other thing that happened while I was away. I was like, geez. So last Wednesday, Edmonton Elks team president Chris Preston appeared on the Jason Greger show. Jason Greger was also on MarkCast. Did a good job there. Preston mentioned the animal names are what rose to the top. So this is what he said as the top 3 names. And I like the Elks. I'm all for the Elks. People are like, elk. It should be an elk, or I don't like the whatever. I like the Elks. It's good. Let's move on. When you look at the overall interest that the majority of the people had, it was the 3 animals: elks, eagles, elk hounds. Whenever we got our survey back, Elks continued to rank number 1 or 2 in every category, with our players number 1, with our coaches number 1, with our fans number 1 or number 2. It quickly became number 1. So I'm excited for the Elks. Princeton also mentioned all 4 logos, including the double E, will be used. And there you have it. So the Edmonton Elks, that was the big announcement while I was chilling on a little break, thinking that nothing's going on. My phone's blowing up that the Elks are now the CFL team, so it's not the Edmonton any longer. Washington, get your act together. In other news, the TSL scores of this past week, if you didn't get a chance to check out any of the games, we've got the Generals beating the Sea Lions 39-27. That was on Fox. Daryl Harmon, I forget his name, helped me out in the chat room. Had a huge game. Richard O for real is in there. USFL is back. Excellent. Zach is in there. What's up, Mark? What's up, Zach? Andrew is in there, and BW Goldstrom. I'll get to your guys' stuff here in a second. Thanks for joining us. He had a huge game. Let's see. The Conquerors beat the Alphas 27-10. The Aviators got a close game with my linemen, but the linemen squeaked that one out 19-20. And then with a Hail Mary at the end of the game, the Jousters lost to the Blues 10-12. That is your final score of those games. Very good. I'm telling you, man, I really think, this is spring football, and they've done a fine job. Everything's been good with the spring league. The games have been good. You know what I mean? There's been, spring football is going to work. There's going to be spring football all the way in the next 10 years. Starting in 2020, we really had it now. Ever since the pandemic, it's going to be spring football. It's going to work. I am confident that by 2030, there will be a spring league playing still in this world. Maybe on Mars. We'll see. On to some XFL news. Redbird Capital adds NFL executive Kevin LaForce. This came out today. Although the XFL plans in 2022 and beyond have not officially revealed, the new ownership group continues to add key pieces. Most recently, Redbird Capital team is new to the team is NFL executive Kevin LaForce. LaForce is expected to be heavily leaned on by the private equity firm as the managing director, helping Redbird with their investments in technology, media, and telecom and sports. Now, LaForce held the title Senior Vice President of Media Strategy and Business Development since 2017, in which he helped negotiate billions of dollars in broadcast deals. That's right there, my friends. Billions of dollars in broadcast deals. Who do you think he's here to help out? Clearly, this guy knows his stuff and knows what he can bring to the table. And, if you're Redbird Capital, you clearly want a guy like this on your squad. And the CFL would not be able to... Do you think the CFL could grab a guy like this to help them out negotiating a deal? So this is interesting. Now, granted, I could sell an NFL. To be honest, I could sell an NFL deal, and I'm being a little facetious, for billions of dollars too. It's not like you're trying to sell. What's that What's that league with the brooms? What's the league chat room? What's the league with the brooms? Where they use the brooms? Oh, I can't do that. Back to my stream. Whatever it's called. You know what I mean? I couldn't get 110 billion for that, but still, it's still good. Let's see. He also played key roles in the NFL's addition of streaming partners to the traditional TV lineup over time. These partners most recently included Thursday Night Football with Fox and Amazon, NFL Mobile's partnership with Verizon, key digital partnerships and social media properties like Facebook, Twitter, Snap, etc., and digital aggregators like Google, YouTube, Amazon. In addition, LaForest has overseen the strategic direction in NFL's out-of-market game package, NFL Sunday Ticket, and its related partners with AT&T. Finally, LaForest manages all media strategy and business development attached to the NFL's effort in legalized sports betting space, including both video and data licensing partnerships. There you go. Why would you not want, if you're a CFL, this is why you're working with Redbird Capital and the XFL and coming up with something new. Not a big full-blown merger, relax, but working together. And I think down the road, maybe 5 years from now or 3 or 4 years from now, there's no need to do a merger right now. You all just need to get your act together and run parallel, and everything is cool. Then maybe you can split off into something else. Or merge together, I should say. But there's no need to do any of that kind of stuff right now. So relax. That's not gonna. I'm not worried about that. Let's see. In other news, some sad news. I was disappointed to see this. LA Wildcats QB Josh Johnson was cut by San Francisco this past week. Boo. They released Josh Johnson. He's doing a bunch of esports stuff, so follow him on social media. He's got some esports things going on. The 49ers had 5 quarterbacks as they looked, and Johnson was the odd man out. Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo obviously have their roster spots locked in. Nate Sheffield and Josh Rosen are younger and have more recent NFL experience. Johnson has been with 13 NFL teams, but his most recent professional experience came in the XFL Wildcats. It'll be interesting. I'll tell you this. This is my barometer. If Josh Johnson plays in the USFL, that means they're paying decent money. XFL money. If he's not in it and some of these other guys aren't in it, then I don't think they'll be paying that much coin. Maybe they'll pay in Bitcoin or Doge. He's like my Doge dog up here. There he is. That's my Dogecoin dog. Shibu Inu. And finally, I didn't bring this up earlier, and I should have. The TSL standings, it's 1 week left. So in the South Division, you got the Generals, Jousters, and Blues all at 3-2. However, I would assume the tiebreaker is points 4, which means the Generals are way ahead. So the Generals, I'm sure if there was a tie, that the Generals would be on top. And then, of course, my linemen at 4-1, they have 150 points, and the Conquerors 148. So the linemen need to win. This is close. So this is going to be a good weekend. This is the final weekend of the Spring League. And you're going to have this Generals, Jousters, and Blues kind of right in the mix, and then the linemen, Conquerors. And Alphas are kind of in there too. So it should be Aviators 0-5 and the Sea Lions 1-4. So that's it for the TSL stuff. So it's definitely be a fun thing to watch. It will be interesting to see if the ratings increase for the Spring League, because this is the final week and then we had the championship game. But overall, it's been great. It's been great for the site. I can't wait to be able to, one of the things we're working on is being able to do stats so you can get like the league leaders and all that stuff on our site. This just kind of came out of the blue, but we've reworked, and I'll talk a little bit about fantasy stuff after the break, of course. All right, my friends, we're going to take a little commercial break. We'll get to your social media stuff and all you guys on the streaming. Appreciate you guys showing up, and we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. I think I got everything. Yeah.
Here's what you missed last week on the Markcast. Well, we certainly picked a good time to have Matt come on the show. You'll notice Paul's not here today. Paul is out of town, and so I had reached out to Matt to come on. Matt, we picked a good morning to have all this news come out and cover this with the USFL. How are you doing today?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I'm doing good. I think this is some exciting news. It might not be the greatest for the XFL, but in terms of just football in general and giving people opportunities, it's awesome.
We have Dave Campbell coming up. It's the Edmonton Elks season. That's kind of was the lead story. Now it's probably going to be like the USFL lives, the Edmonton Elks season. But Dave Campbell with the Edmonton Elks is coming up. I talked to him yesterday. And then we have Tom Mayanek. He's the host of the Sport Market. It's on TSN Radio. Tom does all the CFL sports businessy stuff. And so we've been talking a lot about the C218 bill with single game sports betting. So we're going to have Tom come on.
I think there was a lot of people like myself that didn't really know when the day came of we're changing the name and here's the new name, of how that would go over. I was even myself thinking, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, because 10 months ago was a very emotional time for a lot of people, myself included, because I'd grown attached to the old name. You understand why it had to go and why we're at this point. And then you get to the day of the unveiling and you're like, okay, and this happened rather fast.
If I'm the XFL and the CFL, I'm fast forwarding our discussions and I'm trying to, again, do the right thing. You don't want to do the fast thing. You want to do the right thing. But I think they're so far down this road that both leagues have made the decision that they can benefit from having some kind of collaboration. And it's probably a much more integrated collaboration rather than a soft, we're best buddies kind of partnership.
The Markcast is available wherever you download podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all over the place. It's also on XFL News Hub and YouTube.
What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we are back. First, what's up in the chat room? Richard says the USFL is back. It is, but it will not be like the XFL, and it will not even be like the AAF, in my opinion. He says, I really hope that the XFL will come back soon, because if they wait till 2023, they're going to lose a lot of fans. They're not coming back until 2023, but, I will say but, you're going to start to see a ton of stuff, I assume, especially after the CFL season is over in December. Remember, in February, when they kicked off the season, they had the coaches' announcements and team presidents. All these kind of things started happening in February. So if we don't hear anything in February and March, then the ship has sailed, because you can't keep waiting. But I think 2022 is going to be the buildup that we were hoping for. If you look at it now, the XFL made the right call of not dealing with 2021. Could they have? Yes. It just wasn't worth it. Fans in the stands. You're sort of starting to get fans in the stands. So that was a good to not do it that year. 2022, it's everything going on with the CFL, and I think it's because they are waiting to get the right TV deal. And I think what they figured they needed to do was to somehow package themselves with the CFL to have a bigger pool to offer somebody, and what their grand vision is. And I think their grand vision is going to be something that everybody's going to get excited for. I think the perfect scenario, at least in the initial thing, is at some point it would be great, but who knows? I think they're figuring everything out. Our own Mike Mitchell had said that he thinks they're getting down to the nitty gritty, perhaps. The big details. But to have the season, the CFL season to kind of play out, but just to come out and be like, we're not changing the rules. The CFL is not changing the rules. I mean, they all have said business model. And if they were to be believed, that means a big umbrella company above it, and then these two guys on the side of it. So that's that. Also, I forgot to mention that, and hey, how cool is it on the Markcast that Matt Lyons appeared on the Markcast, and that was great for Reed to bring him in there. And he is one of the many Matts. I only hire Matts. That's it. If you're a Matt, you definitely have a shot to work right for us. If you don't have if your name is not Matt, then we have a little issue with that. But I forgot to mention that was really cool. Let's see. Andrew says, I feel like it's always when we're not paying attention that something comes out of left field. Danny and The Rock buying the XFL, CFL, XFL alignment talk announcements, and now the USFL's return. Yes, that is true. It does. I mean, I wish that they would come out with something else. I mean, we did have the Danny Garcia bathroom photo talking stuff there. What would be cool is if the XFL, now it's not going to happen, but the XFL, it would be very cool. I don't know how they would do it. If there were talks with the USFL, and it was like, oh, well, I just don't think it would happen. But if they were all working together, like the USFL was kind of the minor league to the XFL or something, where the USFL, only played like a certain amount of games, and then like some of the best players are on Team 9 for the XFL, and then the XFL goes and plays their season. I don't know. It'd be just kind of cool. Zach says, what's up, Mark? What's up, Zach? Thanks for joining us. If you had to place a bet on the XFL, CFL, whatever, is going to be in the USFL, which one will survive, and what would you say? Absolutely, and I had said this earlier, if I were to pick, the XFL, CFL would absolutely survive. The USFL, I'm not so sure. I think once the XFL comes in and there's that springtime, that's going to take a lot of juice away from the USFL. But I hope it does. But if I would put my money, if I would put my Bitcoin or Dogecoin down, or Cardano, I would say I think the XFL would last till 2030, and it would last longer than the USFL. My take. Andrew says the XFL is like a team that's trying to draft all of its talent and shoot for the long term, and the USFL is just shooting for free agents to be competitive immediately. Two different philosophies. Absolutely, 100%. One is going with the slow build. One is coming right out of the gate. History has said that the guys coming out of the gate did not do well, but that history that was written prior to that, there was no internet. There was no social media. There was no cell phones. There was no internet. There was no HD TV. There was no VCRs, pretty much. You know what I mean? It's a different era. Again, people want to say, oh, well, history is repeat. All I have to tell you is Tesla. Electric cars, bro. That's it. They didn't think electric cars were going to go anywhere, and now they're all electric cars. Did you see that Ford F-150 Lightning or whatever that can charge your house? My wife is like, I want you to get that truck. I'm like, we need to have an XFL season and a CFL season and a fantasy app, and then maybe we can get that. But right now, all I can afford is Dogecoin dog right behind me. BW Goldstrom says, I am curious if they get benefits for CFL players. Yeah, I'll be curious what. That's an interesting thing. You wonder, are they going to share insurances? Would that bring the cost down a little bit? We'll see what happens there. All right, let's get to some of your social media stuff, shall we, my friends? We'll check in with our friends in the chat here in a second. First up, talking about the Elks name, Brian says, stupid choice. This is from our XFL News Hub. About Josh Johnson leaving. I'm not giving that a like. Josh Johnson leaving. David says, shocker, he was barely XFL kind of decent. He was good. Josh Johnson, I think, was out there for potential MVP in the XFL. I think he had put PJ Walker. Those two would have went at it at the end. It would have been great. Michael, on transactions, we have a bunch of CFL or TSL transactions this week. Nothing too big. David says, please bring back the best uniforms and don't F them up. Talking about the United States Football League. He says Panthers, best home unis of all time. Of which league? Stars, Breakers, Gamblers, Federal, Blitz, Invaders, Gunslinger. PS, when the XFL merge with the CFL fails, guess what league will merge and split into separate divisions? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to fail. Let's see here. About the CFL, Gerald gives it a thumb down about the CFL. PA tells players. I honestly think that there are Russian bots out there that just kind of write crap on Twitter and write crap on, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just kind of do sometimes. William says, bring back the Michigan Panthers and the Chicago Blitz, Philadelphia Stars. We'll see. Josh Davis had a big article about how the USFL could affect an XFL return. Brian says, I'm still wanting to know how this came about because Vince McMahon bought all the rights to the USFL before the relaunch of the XFL. Apparently he didn't. So did he sell those rights before it went bankrupt, or did the Rock and Company sell those rights? I don't think Vince McMahon ever owned any USFL stuff at all there, but okay. I don't think so. I got my glasses on. Let's get to the more news here. This is on the CFL side. Robert says, I hear the Elks Club in Edmonton is a bit offended. True. Is the Elks Club going to block the Edmonton Elks? Did they clear it with the Elks Club? Isn't there Elks Club in America too? This could be bad. This could be bad. They might have to change the name, everybody. Roy says, are they not sticking with the double E logo? Yes, they are. What the F was the point of limiting name choices to those in the beginning with E? Keep the EE helmets. I believe they are. So relax. Argonauts add former University of Idaho DB Chris Edwards, while Toronto has unlimited budget. I guess there. Let's see here. What else we got? We had the behind the scenes of the designers. The Global News had behind the scenes of the designers of the Elks logo. Did you check out the field? Doesn't that look really cool? If you're on the YouTubes, you can check out the field. I mean, it looks really cool on the field. I like the logo. I think it's a hit. It's a home run in my book. I don't know, the haters be hating, but I think it looks great. Let's see. What else? Paul, talking about the USFL, says, I can't get enough football. I agree with you, Paul. I'm with you there, too, as well. Let's get to the YouTubes. Let's see. I have to straighten this out. Let's see here. All right. Creep O Freak. Nice name. Says, I love the spring league. The talent level is pretty high. I think the NFL will probably take some of these guys. I would love to see some fans in the stands and gambling on the games in the future. I think that's something that they have not tapped in yet, the TSL, and they should. I mean, even if you just get some DraftKings going, would be great. which the CFL had DraftKings, and I plan on covering it. I have to reach out to them and see what's happened. Jack, of course, says great video as always. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Theodore says, I've been listening to some XFL fans complaining about not starting their season until 2023. I'm a CFL fan, so I'm a little biased, but I think it's genius move by The Rock. One, we don't know what the disease that shall remain nameless is going to do. This is true. It's going great in the U.S. right now, but it's still out of control in other countries. Very true. If there is a mutation or something brings it into the States, it could possibly be vaccine resistant. Hopefully not. Everything so far is looking good. Things will hopefully be better in 2023, but it's still an unknown. And that is a great point as well. It's an unknown. Let's just punt it one more year, so to speak. I agree with that. 2, if the CFL can't get on the field and either folds or asks RBC for a loan, then the XFL has more leverage in any merger talks. True. 3, it would be better if Young Rock goes through its second season and pays tribute to the CFL before a merger could take place. Now, this was one of the things that I was like, come on. Like, this stuff doesn't happen for just no reason. And to leave it as a cliffhanger with him in the CFL and them talking with the CFL, again, I don't think it's going to be a merger, but it's definitely going to put the CFL on the map and in a lot of talk, especially if they kind of do announcements based around the season of the Young Rock. I mean, remember, when you tie media things together, it works. Just look at the Marvel Universe and how well that is. I mean, now we're all basically programmed that after a movie and after the credits, we still hang around waiting for that teaser that kind of ties into whatever's coming next. So they know this too. And to be able to, I was like, dude, they could have, they could have talked about the CFL now or it's CFL in season 3, but no, CFL in season 2, that was the cliffhanger and here we go. So we'll see what happens, but that is a great point. He said it would be better if the Young Rocks goes through the second season. They could also do other programs that promote both leagues. And 4, fans had to wait 20 years between XFL 1 and XFL 2.0. I'm confident they'll come back to the league when it starts again because no one has the passion for the game of the football like the XFL fan. This is true. Theodore is right. I'm not saying that the U.S. Mint should change the motto to their coins to "In the Rock We Trust." No, the U.S. Mint should just switch to Dogecoin. But I digress on that one. But I do think that people should give him the benefit of the doubt. Absolutely. He knows what he's doing, even if it doesn't come out and tell everybody every little detail. Yeah. I mean, there's like people that it's funny because The Rock and guys like Elon Musk, like, you're not smarter than them. You don't have the backing that they have. Neither do I. I trust these guys that they will do the right thing. They're no dummies. And just and Redbird Capital in itself, even if it was just Redbird Capital by itself, it would still be a home run. Even if it was Danny Garcia by herself, it would still be a home run. And The Rock would still be a home run. Like, these guys know what they're doing. Just let them drive, and we just got to be patient. That's all. Finally, Mike says, thanks for a great show. TSL is very cool. I agree the XFL had traction and the CFL had issues. I would love a merger. Single game betting is available. Bet whatever 365. I hope I can say that. I guess. Both the XFL and CFL have headwinds, but the XFL was looking really good. CFL has pockets of profitability, but not in the most important markets. I agree there. I'm hoping for a short season for the CFL this year, as I have multiple season tickets. Hot weather, beer, hot dogs, and live football. Did I just describe heaven? Yes. Well, not so hot. See, I had to go on a run. So I'm training for a half marathon. And I went on a run Sunday, and my goal was 8 miles. And I was listening to the Markcast like I always do on my long runs. Because I'm like focused on what they're doing. They do a great show. And so I'm like focused. Man, I got to mile like 3.5. It was like 90 something degrees. And I'm like, bro, I'm like going to pass out. So being in super hot weather to watch a football game, nice weather, but like gross hot. Like I was in Miami once for a Ravens game. I've never been so hot and uncomfortable. Like in the shade, I was hot. It was so gross. I'd never been so hot before, and it was miserable. And after you've had some adult beverages, you're already dehydrated, so you can get the rest. It just wasn't good. But I don't know what hot weather. I mean, does Canada get in the 90s? Is like hot weather Canada 75 degrees? Like it's snowing in April in Canada. But so I think those would be. Hey, I've thought about. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I have some plans for some travel this year as far as we're planning maybe a Ravens trip to go see a Ravens away game in Miami. That's kind of one of our plans too. And then, of course, the Grey Cup in December. But I would love to just sneak away for a weekend and head up to Hamilton and see my Tiger Cats, even if it was just a quick jaunt to watch the game and turn around and come back. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. We'll see. We'll see how things go, man. I'm already busy this summer, but in this fall, we'll see what happens. A true football fan wants a strong team on the field and entertaining football. The CFL/XFL will have a lot to offer everyone. I believe the XFL would have done fine, remove the pandemic. Absolutely. CFL had some serious issues. I find this potential merger one of the most exciting possibilities in sports today. The diehard Canadians that say they will abandon football due to a beautiful merger will get over it very quickly. True. I bet we go to non-Canadian entities, McDonald's, Home Depot, Lowe's, Wendy's, Staples, Walmart, and let's not forget shopping on Amazon, and we'll find a way to enjoy more teams and coverage quite nicely. Once the fear of loss of CFL history and identity is over, it will always be there. We will have a fantastic product on the field from Winnipeg, home of the Grey Cup champion Bombers, the Winnipeg Jets, and Gold Eyes, AA Baseball. This fan can't wait for a CFL-XFL merger. Bo Levi Mitchell is cool, and I respect his views a lot. Thanks, Rock. I like what you're cooking. Mike, dropping the mic on that one. I like Bo Levi Mitchell, too. Hearing him on that one podcast, I was like, I'm a fan. I like this guy. I'm rooting for him. I can't wait to see these guys. And really, it's been tough because, when we started with the XFL stuff, it took me a little while to like really get into it until the games started happening, and then I started like getting players that I liked, and we really started to get into it. So it's not going to feel real to us United Statesers, Americans, and our coverage getting real into it. Once there's like games that and players and rosters and things that we can get into, but it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to, watching the NFL and the CFL this year. And a lot of Americans are going to be watching the CFL this year more than ever before. And that is a good thing for the league and its social media and everything else like that. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Let's see here. On to the Twitters. The Prolific Radio says, talking about the USFL, I love this news. All USFL fans out there has been manifesting its return since the doors closed in '87. We are so happy personally. What I'd prefer to happen, one, the XFL abandon the merger with the CFL and join the new USFL. Start a larger league that looks like this. Either XFL teams assuming USFL names, creating quality, establishing, and he's got the conferences out there. I like all this stuff, but that's not going to happen. It is not going to happen at all. Let's see. Go Dogs. A bunch of other numbers. Talking about, I think we have an appetite for it. In the 60s, two leagues did this. Oh, Josh Davis was talking about two different leagues at the same time. Players that at the time held second jobs. Seems to work okay. Hoping they can both succeed at some level and push each other to make the game better. Who knows? Maybe we will have a juggernaut in the spring. It's true. That is true. Alex K, a bunch of numbers, talking about the USFL thing. This sucks for the XFL. I'm honestly bummed out about this. I feel like the XFL 3.0 is doomed before it ever began. There's no way the spring football leagues can coexist side by side and survive. I feel the XFL 3.0 now has unfortunately lost hope. I am telling you, do not lose hope. Young Skywalker. Young Skywalker, do not lose hope. I think we're fine. I'm not too worried about it. This one, let's see here. It doesn't come out. What the heck? Jacob a bunch of numbers. Why did it cut off? He asks, and I can't move it. XFL News Hub, when's the next roundtable? One of the things that I thought of maybe next roundtable, that's JT Atkins 117. I'm glad you liked it. I'm thinking, I wonder if we do something around this. Well, the schedule will come out next week. I think before the CFL season, maybe doing a live. We should do a live roundtable. What do you guys think of that? We'll go live and just talk about the upcoming CFL season. I think, who we think is going to win, players to look out for, fantasy things, that kind of stuff. I think we should do a roundtable when the CFL season kicks off. If we can get everybody together there, that would be good. I like that idea. Dave Burnett 22 about Josh Davis's article about how the USFL could affect the XFL return. I don't think the USFL's presence hurts the XFL. The USFL has a lot of work to do between now and their anticipated spring 2022 launch. Hiring a commissioner, identifying markets, securing stadium leases, front office staff, drafting players, training camp, etc. Exactly. That's why it's basically going to, in my opinion, it's going to be the TSL that we just saw with the USFL skin and maybe some merch, because there is no commissioner. They're not securing stadium deals and everything. There's no team presidents. There's no season tickets. Like, none of that stuff is happening at all. They're not going to do anything. They'll do the skin. And this is if I'm taking their business model approach. Okay. I'm doing the skin. I'm doing merch. But the same TSL, the same hub things, the same schedule, but having fans in the stands. Potentially, maybe 3 hubs. Well, you can't do 3. I would stick with 2 hub cities. I don't know if the fans would get burnt out going to those games. But it's like ticket sales and merch. I would focus on that, and then new skin and everything else keep the same. If you're going to do a slow build. That's how you do it. Let's see. Finally, Andrew talking about this UFL stuff. I'm not sure how much intel Danny, Dwayne, and AJ had on this, but this is direct competition to what they are planning on doing. I think this is a sign the XFL needs to leave the CFL idea behind and should have tried merging with the USFL instead. 2 spring leagues can't survive simultaneously. Everybody thinks that. I think that they're fine. I don't think that there's going to be a problem. I'm feeling pretty good. Let's see here. I'm not too worried about that. We got podcast emails. What do you guys think in the chat here? Let's see. B.W. Goldston, as a former Eskimo season ticket holder, there is still a lot of pushback to the Elks. What? The name that popular seat holders was Edmonton Empire from a marketing program from 3 to 4 years ago. I wonder if they couldn't secure that. Zach says, I can honestly see both sides. I know one league is going to work. Interesting to see what happens because the USFL says it wants to compete with the XFL. Now, our own Markcast reads out there, says Brian does not want to merge. They want to compete. And he definitely sounded like that. Check out their podcast with Brian Woods, and you'll hear that. And I think they want to compete. And I think they feel like they can beat the XFL. We shall see, man. Good luck to you. Hey, whatever happens, I'm all for the leagues doing well. Richard says, I wonder if the XFL, USFL will draft players on smaller colleges. They should go after more small college players. I was saying if there's this whole ratio issue going on, that the way to solve the problem is you can keep the ratio. If they ever were to merge, which is not happening, in my opinion, for at least 5 years. If that does come to pass, then XFL teams need to have Division III players, a Division III ratio, rather than Division I, and do it that way. Because the whole idea of the ratio rule for the Canadian Football League, and even if they did merge now, which they're not going to, even if they did, you could keep the ratio rule as long as in the United States you have something comparable, and that would be Division III players. I would assume that Division I Canadian U Sports football players that played in Division I schools are better players than Division III American players. So that solves the problem right there, where you're kind of, at least for now. Eventually, I think you can get away with it because I think Canadian players will be just as good, and you don't need to do that kind of ratio things. But I get that part. That's how you solve it. Let's see. Zach says, my only concern with the ownership group of the USFL is that Fox is involved. And remember what happened the last time and network was involved in owning a spring football league. Thanks, XFL 2001. And that's the thing. If they don't like what's going, they can just pull the plug. And that's what I think could happen there as well. Let's see. Let's go to some emailers here on our deal here. Where's my Homer Simpson? By the way, I've been watching a ton of Simpsons, man. Still a good show. Still funny. Even though the episodes are so old. There's like 20-something seasons. All right, let's get to some emails before my voice totally craps out. Real quick, we'll just scan through these. Dave says, hey, Mark, it was bittersweet development to hear the USFL resurrection. I'm a supporter of all off-season football, but I can't help but think it was a gut punch to the XFL fan base who have been left with nothing but a glimpse of a weight belt The Rock carried in a commercial for something else. Although the CFL is a great idea, I just want the XFL to crawl before trying to run a marathon. Is it wrong to feel like a drowning league is pulling us under? I look forward to the USFL, but I'm just bummed a bit of the momentum from Danny and The Rock has been squandered in NDAs. At least Danny started a new fitness wear line. Cheers to that. Love your show. Dave checking in. Like I said, don't worry. I think once they come out with an announcement, I think everything will be reset and everybody will feel pretty good. I'm not too worried about the USFL. Again, they're not going to have stadiums. They're not going to have season ticket packages. Like there's just no way that they could do that in less than a year. I mean, we're talking less than a year. And we've heard zero hiring. It's going to be a slow build. So I'm not too worried about it. By the time, I don't even think by the time the XFL kicks off, they're going to have in their home cities. I would assume the USFL would still be in these hub cities before it gets going. I could be wrong. And hey, if the USFL is the one, the king, then USFL News Hub is here to stay. I already bought that. So we're good. Let's see. Jim checking in. As always, I have to compliment XFL News Hub. Great site. It's been a while since I've emailed XFL News Hub, and the reason being is a lack of information from the XFL. I know there's our NDAs and they're between the XFL and CFL, but the XFL needs to step up to the plate as the plot thickens in the world of alternative non-NFL football. The return of the USFL with TV contracts in place is very interesting, and there will probably be lots of noise around the return as the XFL remains silent. Bottom line for me is that I want the XFL to return. I love the rules, and the play was very impressed, not to mention the atmosphere of games. The St. Louis Battlehawks were most likely going to break 60,000 in attendance in the third home game. I agree with that. But then you-know-what hit. Obviously believe if it weren't for you-know-what, the XFL would be thriving right now. Completely agree with that. If XFL doesn't come to fruition, then I wish the USFL all the luck in the world. They hope they consider St. Louis as a franchise home. I prefer the return of the XFL, and if this happens, I plan on flying into Reagan. All right, what is this? I hope they consider St. Louis as a franchise home. I prefer the XFL to return, and if this happens, I plan on flying into Reagan, taking the red line to the green line and getting off at Audi Field and take in a Battlehawks road game versus the DC Defenders and buying Mark Perry a large beer. That's what I'm talking about! Exclamation point. I love the idea, Jim. Coming down, taking the red Metro right to Audi Field. We meet up at Walters, where we had our live show there. Go down to Walters, right next to Washington National Stadium, and you will buy me a cider beer. I have a gluten problem, and so a beer would not do, but a cider beer, I will take you up on that, Jim. And I tell you what, I will take the private XFL News Hub jet. I'm totally joking. Unless Dogecoin and crypto goes crazy. We'll take the private jet. We'll get all the crew. We'll fly everybody in. We'll meet Jim at the tailgate, and I will buy him a gluten-free cider beer beverage. Maybe we'll take the XFL News Hub limousine. I was in St. Louis. I went to a St. Louis and versus Ravens game before Ravens versus Rams. I swear the crowd noise was pumped. There was nobody in the stadium. The stadium was connected to the casino, which was a great thing. We had a blast in St. Louis. It was fun. It was a great town. They loved their sports because we were there. It was a Ravens game, and then the Cardinals were playing, and everybody, they freaking love baseball there, man. I would never go into St. Louis and talk trash about baseball. I know better. They love their baseball in St. Louis, so it's a great town. I was surprised, with everything happening. But yeah, the Battlehawks, man. I'm telling you, that first game back with the XFL, it's got to be prime time. It's got to be DC against St. Louis and show the world that the freaking stadium can sell out in the first game back in the XFL. That's what they got to do. Swing for the fences, boys. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Mike says, so not only do we have the USFL, United States Football League, coming back on Fox Sports, presumably with old team names, logos, location, but Major League Football is also planning to start up soon, and TSL, the Spring League, are beginning to expand. With all this new competition, do you think the XFL has a chance? I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Major League Football, whatever. They've done nothing, and they were saying they were going to do something soon. That's not happening. The TSL is going to take a backseat to the USFL. I think the TSL is going to go away. My thoughts are, if the XFL wants to survive, they should add 8 more teams as soon as they can. 16 teams, 2 conferences with 8 teams per conference. It might be easy to buy the AF names and logos to quickly get it out, since the old AF teams still have their fans. By the way, nobody remembers the Freedom Football League? I almost forgot that was a thing. Wasn't there a women's flag football league? Maybe we should cover that. Let's see here. Oh, is this a book? Blaine checking in with his, it's not too bad. His email, let's see here. The reason for talks between the CFL and XFL is primarily financial. The CFL lost tens of millions of dollars last season, and the team will lose money again this year, whether they play or not. A merger could provide more than $100 million US in American network and streaming dollars, and a smaller amount from the Canadian deal. The money is vital for the CFL to survive beyond the next couple of seasons. What would be the purpose of a CFL and XFL merger if the XFL goes 4 downs instead of 3? Why look like the National Football League and be the same? It never worked before. Be a totally different game for Americans to watch. The game Canadians enjoy 3 downs and 12 players on a bigger field. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum about the trying to do fields in the United States, the 3 downs, the 4 downs, blah blah blah. Let's see. Drop the XFL. Call it the NFA, National Football Association. Maybe some rules. Eventually drop the import-export rule and go with the best players. All these changes would make up the XFL, drafting Europeans. He wants he says the Americans are always starting a new league in the United States because they are bored with 11 players and 4 downs on a smaller field. Interesting. Interesting there. Joe, Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot, USFL, question mark. Mark, so what just happened? Any insight to why the Spring League is rebranding the USFL? I guess the Fox executive likes the Spring League TV numbers this year and the XFL numbers from last year. Yes, pre-COVID, to invest in another Spring League and go forward with it. Does this have any impact on the CXFL? Preemptive strike, XFL cities. Again, I've said this. I'm not too worried about it, to be honest with you. On there, when it comes to, I mean, if they really, without moving them into cities, which I don't think they're going to do, it means nothing. And I believe it was kind of a preemptive strike. I mean, you could have come out with this, to build that, have that buzz around your championship game, like just before the TSL championship game, you're going to have big interest and pull in some USFL stuff during that game. I thought it seemed kind of rushed, and then I was like, I wonder if something else is going on. Maybe that the XFL is coming out with something soon, so they needed to jump on it before they did. Joe says, it's week 6 TSL schedule. TSL lists 7 p.m. Friday, June 11th, FS1. Fox lists Saturday, 12 p.m., June 12th, Fox. I have to check the schedule, see if anything has changes. Dan asks, where can I get the box scores for Spring League games? I wanted to have the stats on the site. I could not get that functionality working, at least not yet. But if you go to their Twitter or their Facebook pages, they have a spreadsheet if you're really interested in checking it out. And Daniel finally says, hey, Mark, how's it going? Not sure if you already saw this, but the small Canadian software company, let's see here, behind the now defunct Maximum Football video game franchise has a buyer for its intellectual property. Interesting. Canuck Play tweeted out, they're in the process of clearing out office after so much effort. To get this far is extremely depressing. Still, there should be good news regarding the sale of Maximum Football IP and source code, I assume, in a couple of weeks. I won't be involved, but there are great things in the works. Interesting. It's the only game I know where you can change the rules between NFL, CFL, NCAA, etc. Could this be the CFL/XFL swooping in to secure a platform for a future video game? Question mark. Former developer owner Dave Winter seemed depressed when his company folded, but from this tweet and comments, he is sure playing coy about something exciting coming out of the sale. Big change in tune. Keep up the good work, Dan. I don't know. I mean, would Redbird, I don't think they would have an interest in acquiring, but they went under. And somebody bought their intellectual property. Who knows who it could be. But yeah, I mean, they were close. And I know that there were some skins with the XFL out there for this game. And then it kind of went away. But yeah, I mean, but you would really want to partner with a big video game franchise, unless you swing for the fences of somebody small. But clearly, if they wanted the XFL or CFL to make a game, they would have given them money so they wouldn't have folded. So just because somebody bought them out, I'm not really sure about that. About this week 6 change, let's see, this was sent in by Fourth and Long. I have to check the schedule, but it's like some schedule changes or whatever that. All right, we got 2 more. All right, real quick. Joe checking in. The hardcore CFL fan needs to take a deep breath. They need to take a breath and relax. We are not out to destroy 3-down football. I like 3-down football. I mentioned elsewhere that the Pac-12 has been playing CFL rules for decades because the Pac-12 is the most pass-prolific football conference. Talk about losing their minds, getting indignant about how the Pac-12 is nothing close to the CFL. 3 downs, wider field, the Rouge, etc. lost their minds. If you watch the Pac-12 or Big 12, they are more or less playing spread offense, pass-heavy styles of play that fits pretty well with the CFL. The hardcore act as if the CFL rules are completely different, like you're learning to play cricket or Aussie rules football. I just don't get why they freak out and start telling you how different it is, etc. I don't know, man. It's 20%. Here's the thing, too. Somebody was talking to me about this the other day, about kind of what I do in the XFL and all this other stuff. right now, there's 20% of the fan base is like hardcore XFL fans. They're still plugged in. They're listening to the podcast. They're participating. They're reading things. They can't wait to hear about the league coming back. 80% of the fans are out there. And that goes with the CFL. Like right now, there's probably a little bit more fan interest, maybe that 30%. You got to remember, the CFL had already shut down last season. They're still not plugged in yet. So what we're hearing from is that 20% hardcore audience, not the 70% that are out there, and the more that will kind of start to tune in as the league comes back. And they're interested more than ever before because they don't know what's going on with this XFL, CFL stuff. So it just gives the league a little bit more juice. So I'm not worried too much about these folks anymore. And then there's a couple, the media in Canada is very interesting. I'll just say that. But, I mean, like I said, you're not going to hear us bash the CFL. I mean, that must be a Canadian thing. I mean, I don't even know if that really happens in the United States where, I guess, I mean, people hate the Redskins, but they hate the Redskins ownership. But, like, hating on the league in general, and I just think that's a minority and they'll just go away. And I'm not really concerned with them anymore, to be honest. My question would be, is it such a different game? Why don't players who grew up playing three-down football dominate the sport? That's a good question. If the rules were so, like, why don't they dominate? I don't think because it makes that much difference at the end of the day. As much as we like to think it does, I don't think the rules make that much of a difference. I mean, fan control football is a different field. Football is football. Would you think they would have an advantage? But that's not the case. Most American QBs from small schools seem to be able to figure out the CFL pretty quickly. At any rate, take care. Keep handing out the chill pills. Thank you very much. Joe checking in, as always. And finally, let's see here. Jordan checking in. Thanks, you guys. And this is also from stuff last week, too, that we didn't get to. Some good news up here. I heard local health dictator said she might let BC play at BC Place this summer with fans. I'm a diehard Lions fan and would love that we don't need to any more damage to the CFL. Not sure if you guys know, but Bobby Ackle's story. I think you do, as he played a major role in the XFL at one time, but he saved the BC Lions in the 2000s. I went to the lowest attended game ever with tickets, and I won on the radio with my dad. Only 14,000 were there 2 years later, sitting with 55,000 at the West Final. And that was the literal difference of Bobby Ackles. Lions still hurt that Ackles is gone, and I do too. I never met the man, but he saved my team from certain death. I wish he were here today more than ever. Thanks for your time. To the new future of football, let the games begin. Jordan checking in as well. Thanks for the message there. Well, lots of stuff on the chat. Garrett says USFL, XFL, ND, CFL all under one banner. That ain't going to happen. Zach says, Mark, you weren't the first one to have crazy thought about all the leagues working together at the same time. That was me. Zach saying that I got it from him, apparently. He's got the NDA. We need to sign an NDA, me and Zach, to sign an NDA. Garrett says CFL, XFL plus CFL plus USFL, bigger XFL. That ain't going to happen. Yabba dabba do. Checking in. Any relation to the Jetsons? Do you think that we may see a merger with the XFL, USFL, MLFB? No. I'm telling you, I'm definitely not worried about Major League Football. And I'm definitely not too concerned. If the USFL is setting up markets and hiring team presidents and selling season tickets, then I'm worried about the USFL. But if they don't do that next year, then I don't see how they could beat. Fans aren't going to get around a league unless there's home teams and they can participate. You know what I mean? DY says the league cut them as a cost-cutting measure. The dollar difference was killing the owners. Oh, y'all forget that the CFL had teams in Vegas, Birmingham, and Baltimore. Yeah. But we all know that didn't work. But again, it's a different era. DY says CFL doesn't have NHL money. All right, so there you have it. Thanks for everyone checking in on the chats. Appreciate everybody hanging out there. Appreciate everybody hanging out online and checking in with the show as my voice is about to go. When I sit and work on a computer all day, I don't use my voice. And then towards the end, I'm like, my voice is starting to go because I'm the only one talking here. All right, so remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. Thanks to Manscaped. Get that 20% off. Just use the promo code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. Appreciate them. Enjoy the games this week, the TSL games. They should be fun. We'll see who's going to lead to the championship. Man, I would love to go out there to check out the championship game, but I don't know where I'll be at that point. I might be on vacation. But I definitely want to check it out, and those numbers will be great. Looking forward to that. On the fantasy side of things, we just closed out our first season of pro wrestling fantasy. Still working out kinks with the draft, working on the head-to-head matchup. Everything seems to be working pretty decent now. Hopefully we'll have a couple leagues crank back up. But my focus now on the fantasy side of things is trying to get the data from the database to the website. So what does that mean for you guys? Well, it means that when I can get CFL stats, for example, and league leaders and all that good stuff and player profile pages having stats on them. So that's what I'm kind of working on this summer. Are we going to have CFL fantasy? We'll have to see if TSN will allow, if they do fantasy, if we can even log in from the United States. If we don't, I mean, August 5th is tight to be able to do it. There's a foundation there. It would be super beta. Maybe we would do it in September. But then y'all are going to be interested in NFL. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get a beta league or two out there and just see how it goes. But that's what we're working on this summer. That's the goal. So if you don't see a lot of content from me, videos or articles or whatever, my main focus now is the data side of things, what I'm good at. Let my writers write. They're good at that stuff. And you're good at your stuff, okay? We're all good. You're good. You got talent. The world loves you, okay? Well, that's it for the show, folks. Remember, you follow us on social media. Give us a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Follow us on all the social. Download our apps. Listen to us everywhere. You can watch us online live every Monday at 8 p.m. Thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out. You can join for show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast for show notes and so much more. And join us on the Discord, especially if you're down with that CFL Fantasy League. I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. God bless y'all. And I will see you all later.